ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula is addressing the media briefing on political developments. Let's listen in.
And update the nation on internal renewal processes ahead of the forthcoming National General Council of the African National Congress. The national dialogue, in our understanding, is not a once-off event, nor an ANC-driven program. And the convention that took place in a couple of weeks ago at the University of Pretoria, University of South Africa, we have understood that as a convention that sets the tone in terms of what must happen with regard to the dialogue, but not the dialogue itself. It is a citizen-led process designed to build a new social compact in line with the aspirations of the people and rooted firmly in the ideals of the Freedom Charter. The Resident National Convention served as a foundation, established a steering committee tasked with ensuring that the dialogue reaches every corner of society in the wards, communities, civil society, labor, business, youth, and traditional leaders. Guided by its traditions of dialogue, consensus building, and unity in action, the ANC welcomes this people-driven initiative. The dialogue is a concrete expression of the Freedom Charter's declaration that, I quote, "The people shall govern," close quote, reinforcing the democratic ethos of our nation more than 30 years into freedom. It provides an inclusive platform to break structural bottlenecks that have hindered transformation and development. Attempts to mischaracterize the dialogue as an ANC public relations exercise are rejected with the contempt it deserves. The ANC is committed to organizational renewal, societal renewal, and advancing the resolutions of the 54th and 55th national conferences, which emphasizes the renewal of the movement and the participatory governance. We call on all South Africans, especially workers, the unemployed, women, youth, and the economically excluded, to participate actively in shaping a future South Africa they wish to inherit. We were encouraged as participants, of which we sent 5 delegates to the convention, to see such enthusiasm and a great spirit of camaraderie among South Africans across all walks of life, political divide, and citizenry and notable personalities in our society grappling with difficult issues that face our nation, and shaping the agenda of what South Africa should be about and what we should be seized with as a nation. The ANC is deeply concerned about the rise of gangsterism in schools and violence in the transport sector. These challenges speak to a deeper social malaise undermining our communities. In response, the ANC calls for a national campaign to restore the soul of the nation, a mass-based movement involving parents, educators, faith-based organizations, school governing bodies, and community policing forums. This aligns with the ANC's long-standing commitment to moral regeneration and social cohesion. Parents must again become central to the learner-educator-parent triangle, reclaiming our children from the grip of crime and hopelessness. We call upon our structures, our communities, not to be onlookers to acts that humiliate teachers in the schools. We must intervene. We must engage. We must support our teachers. We must support our children, who most of the time we see that they are engaged in acts that define the collapse of social fabric of our society. We must not be onlookers. We must participate. Teachers are at the center of shaping a human resource for the country that is South Africa. The ANC condemns the senseless violence in the e-hailing and taxi industries, including the tragic murder of Mthokozisi Mvelase. We reaffirm the need for accelerated implementation of the National Land Transport Act to regulate the e-hailing transportation in our country. We support the modernization of public transport and the revitalization of PRASA, which we have seen moving at a faster pace, led by the Ministry of Transport in South Africa. The safety of commuters is non-negotiable. The ANC rejects manipulative opinion polls designed to sow doubt about the movement's strength and relevance. Some of these polls are funded by neoliberal think tanks and DA-aligned interests to project a manufactured narrative of ANC decline. Our recent by-election victories strengthened branch activism and renewed grassroots confidence, and affirmed that the ANC remains the most trusted and relevant political organization in the country. The biggest challenge we face in terms of our citizenry is a decline of participation in the democratic processes of our country. The GNU is a reflection of the democratic mandate of the 2024 elections, and it is anchored in ANC-led policies and programs, including the Presidential Employment Stimulus, SRD grant, expanded school nutrition schemes, and energy reforms. The ANC remains the central and stabilizing force in the GNU. We will continue to review structural arrangements to ensure stability and sharpen the focus on service delivery. The ANC is not a spectator, it leads. We respect the will of the people, and GNU is one such defining tactical intervention that reflects the outcome of the elections in 2024. The seventh administration has continued to advance the apex priorities of growing the economy, creating jobs, fighting poverty, reducing the cost of living, and building an ethical, capable, and developmental state. Important strides have been made in implementing programs aimed at waging the war on poverty and providing meaningful relief to the daily lives of South Africans. We reiterate that local government remains a critical sphere of governance, as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic. In this regard, the ANC welcomes the recent changes in local government leadership in some of our provinces. This action reaffirms our commitment to ensuring that service delivery is not undermined or sabotaged in any form. We call on all councillors to desist from acting outside the collective decisions of the ANC, which are aimed at strengthening stability in municipalities and transforming the lives of our people. Flowing from these apex priorities, the ANC is working tirelessly to ensure that service delivery is accelerated and strengthened across all levels of the state. We acknowledge the progressive developments in key metros, including eThekwini, the positive offshoots in the city of Johannesburg, and the commendable work being undertaken in Tshwane. These gains demonstrate that where there is discipline, accountability, and collective leadership, our people experience real and tangible improvements in their daily lives. In preparation for the 2026 local elections, the ANC has empowered the Electoral Committee in line with the 54th and 55th conference resolutions to ensure that only ethical, capable, and people-centered cadres are nominated as candidates. The through the eye of the needle principles remain the yardstick. Leadership is not an entitlement but a revolutionary responsibility. Councillors and candidates must be visible, accountable, and rooted in their communities, leading with humility and competence. Only the Electoral Committee is mandated to communicate publicly on mandate and selection of candidates, ensuring coherence, integrity, and a revolutionary discipline. We wish to reiterate, to this extent, the ANC will convene a special National Executive Committee meeting next week to deal with matters related to local government, and that meeting will be characterized as a meeting to focus on ANC implementing intervention programs in the different municipalities throughout the country. To that extent, we will convene what we call roll call of all public representatives post the meeting of the National Executive Committee to give marching orders on what the National Executive Committee will have adopted as a program for intervention in local municipalities. The meeting of the Special Executive Committee and the roll call will mean that the ANC will implement an action plan, consolidate its grip, and address the weaknesses that are there in local municipalities. The ANC reaffirms its commitment to the 2018 NEC Communications Protocol. The ANC speaks with one voice. The President is the policy face of the organization. The Secretary General is the chief spokesperson, and the national spokesperson is the official media line. Public contradictions, unauthorized statements, and social media misconduct are acts of defiance, not freedom, and will attract consequences. Revolutionary discipline remains the lifeblood of our unity. And some among us, when they vulgarize this line of march, they say we suppress debate in the ANC. The ANC, 113th oldest liberation movement in the continent, prides itself of values of disciplined political dissent within its ranks. The ANC prides itself of revolutionary morality. The ANC prides itself of democratic centralism. And what does that mean? It means that once the higher structures have pronounced in between conferences, which is the National Executive Committee, those decisions stand and they must be defended by all, more especially those who serve in the structures that take those decisions. And we are very much encouraged and elated by the discipline our ground forces have maintained in this regard. Not that they don't have views or divergent views, but they've understood that the center holds. Since we came into office in 2022, all the ill discipline in the organization that you used to witness, except there are sporadic features of that in certain provinces, of which we have seen the lax leadership of the ANC in certain provinces where action has not been taken on acts of ill discipline, especially towards regional conferences. But over and above that, members of the ANC have maintained the line. Not that they agree with the decisions that have been taken by the NEC, but they've understood that the movement is engulfed in a difficult moment, especially post the 2024 national elections, where we realized the decrease of the ANC in terms of percentage in the national election. And the members of the ANC and leaders of the ANC have maintained the discipline and understood and accepted the direction from the upper structures of the organization. The National Executive Committee recently have re-emphasized that the Secretary General's office must act decisively against ill discipline in the organization. Ill discipline, if it is perpetuated at the national level, that's where we must start as an organization. Members of the organization have maintained discipline and have also voiced their divergent views in the different platforms where they can. That is why we will engage with members of the organization in the biggest political school towards the General Council on the discussions that shape the strategic way forward for the African National Congress towards the National General Council and beyond. The upcoming National General Council represents a midterm review anchored in the strategy and tactics document and inspired by the Freedom Charter. The NGC will confront the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, and propose bold steps for the fourth decade of freedom. The base document, rooted in resolutions of the 55th conference, calls for societal renewal by putting people at the center of development, organizational renewal through cadre development, political education, and ethical leadership, ideological renewal to restore the ANC's moral authority and reclaim trust, defining South Africa's future in progressive, people-centered terms. This discussion document will be launched this weekend in regional meetings and published in Umkhabulu, wider engagement in the structures of the organization. The ANC welcomes progress in African-led peace initiatives on the Russia-Ukraine conflict by our principles of non-alignment, peaceful resolution of disputes, and a progressive internationalism. We commend President Ramaphosa and the ANC subcommittee on international relations for advancing dialogue and positioning Africa as a force for peace. The ANC reaffirms that a lasting resolution requires global powers, including NATO and the EU, to place human dignity above external power struggles. South Africa, alongside fellow African nations, will continue to contribute to global peace and justice in line with ANC internationalist traditions. We take this moment to extend our deepest and most heartfelt condolences to the families, friends, and loved ones of all South Africans who have recently lost their lives, including Ambassador Mninwa Mahlangu, John Piper, Nomvula Rosalind Mabona, and Mama Nandi Nyembe. Their passing is a profound loss not only to their families, but also to the broader community. And we join the nation in mourning their lives while honoring the legacies they leave behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SG, for that statement. And I'm going to quickly turn to you, colleagues, foreign engagement. I'll start here. SABC. Newsroom. Okay.
Two questions. First and foremost, on the issues pertaining to the national dialogue, the supposed perceived standoff that is there between former President Mbeki and President Ramaphosa, what would you attribute that particular seemingly standoff where it may be perceived as if the former president is undermining the current sitting head of state for him not to be part of the national dialogue that ultimately speaks about his administration and previous administrations? What would you record what characterize this particular standoff between these two gentlemen who are, one is an ex-official member of the ANC and one is an ANC member of cabinet? The national chairperson, Fikile Mbalula, characterized it as someone who's failing to let go of the handle whilst he's no longer in power. Then secondly, on the regional conferences, what's the update on the report of the team that was set up to investigate the regional conferences that took place in Limpopo? What is the status of that report? Have you finalized it? What is the verdict on that particular report? Then lastly, on the issues pertaining to the geopolitics, particularly around President Ramaphosa, the United States, Russia, Ukraine, what was the discussions centralized around with President Vladimir Putin and the EU leaders that President Ramaphosa spoke to last week after getting that report back from President Putin? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let's take it to Newsroom.
Zinigo Mhlanga from Newsroom Africa. SG, what's your response to public critiques made by some members of society and indirectly made by some ANC senior leaders regarding the fact that, or accusing President Ramaphosa of not having the capacity to provide the leadership to the country under the current circumstances the country is faced with? And secondly, we've heard some leaders of the ANC making public statements, describing a very bad picture of the ANC, saying that it's in a dire state. And I want to know, are there any steps which have been taken against the likes of Senzo Ntuli, or internally within the organization? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will then go to UFM.
Thank you, Khawalo Magolego from UFM. Just to take forward Zinyoko's question, to be more explicit, how's the ANC reacting to the comments of the former International Affairs Minister, Naledi Pandor? It sounded to me that she was saying that it appears that those who are in charge today are asking the public as to what needs to happen instead of providing solutions. And on the dialogue, SG, what is your assessment of what happened, especially with the convention itself? At face value, it looked like a complete chaos, disorganized. The second and third day, the hall was completely empty, apparently after people heard that they were not going to be paid for being participants there. Just your reflection on that one. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. My name is Lunga. I'm from the American Guardian. you spoke now, Secretary General, that you are denouncing what the polls are saying. Would you maybe take us to a point where you can then tell us to say what are the internal polls of the ANC saying? And I'm raising this because of you saying that the ANC is not losing support, but society in general is not really voting. That's why then you find that the ANC is not getting as much support. And secondly, when you came in as Secretary General, you had made it clear that there would not be an issue of a KC and George in the ANC and the centre will vote. Do you feel that there's members, especially senior leaders, who are ill-disciplined and are not allowing you to have that centre that votes? And the other one would be, I don't know if this has gotten to you, Secretary General, but what I understand is that the EFF and PA had a standoff for the NMC or transport position in Johannesburg, and both of them are saying they will walk away if the ANC does not give them that position. Are you aware of this, and how much of a threat is it to the government in here in Johannesburg? And lastly, the issue of, I think somebody raised it, of Limpopo. What I heard, or the letter that I saw, that there would not be any conferences that would convene without them getting a go-ahead from you. So what I want to know, with the three that have taken place, especially the Polokwane one, I think Vembe, I'm not sure, not sure the other one, the third one, which have all of them have disputes. How far is that report to say, do you allow members to go and challenge it in court, or are you going to then say, okay, let's have a rerun of the conference? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will I take it to?
Yeah.
Not soon. I'll take it back to with your sorry, SG, where UFM again, a follow-up question.
Yeah, I just left out the question. An update on the intention to reset the GNU party, and which parties have you met with in that regard, and are you managing to convince that those that are already within the coalition, because we've seen, I think, about 3 of them saying they are opposed to the idea, that is the DA, Rise Mzansi, and Musi Maimane, whether you've also tried to sell the idea to them, because it seemed like they only learned about it when you had the previous briefing downstairs, and yeah.
That will be it for now. Over to you, SG.
No, thank you very much for the questions. SABC national dialogue and the standoff between President Mbeki and President Ramaphosa, and the remarks that were made. First, as the ANC, we don't understand, we have not understood the withdrawal from the convention of the foundations as a standoff between the former president and the current president. There are issues that have been raised by the foundations that that did not participate in the convention, and we believe that those issues are being attended to, and they must be engaged. President Mbeki is among the architects of the idea of the dialogue long before the elections and after. And he sits in our NEC, and he has made his views very clear in relation to how we must, as an ANC, first and foremost, characterize and define our relationship with the dialogue. And fundamental to that, which we agree with him, is that this dialogue is a dialogue of South Africa and led by the citizenry, and it's not ANC led, or any political party for that matter. So we agree with him with regard to that. And if there are issues of misunderstanding in the convening, we believe that those issues can be resolved. And we are encouraged by the developments that the EPG, Eminent Persons Group, has been engaging. And it looks like they will find each other. And we welcome that. As much as critics of the dialogue saw that as a spin-off, the non-participation of the foundations, we viewed that as an important step in relation to engaging in robust discussion and shaping up a dialogue that will benefit all. And those matters are being attended to. So every time President Mbeki has got a different view or raises his views about the discourse, we should understand them as views in the discourse which are constructive. And as the ANC, whether he raised them inside the ANC or outside, we are fortunate to have somebody like him in our terrain, and also robust in terms of engagement. In this instance, we don't view such engagements as a standoff. We believe that these are matters that are important, that must be engaged. And we are encouraged by the fact that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that those issues will be sorted out that have been raised. We established a task team for Limpopo to address, to understand the concerns that have been raised by members of the ANC in the regional conferences. And those conferences are three. It was Bembe, it was Mopani, and it was Peter Mgaba. So the task team was engaging with the issues that have been raised by members of the ANC. We do have checks and balances in the organization, and a conflict resolution mechanism that we have set in place, which are independent. So the task team will look into that, into those issues that members have raised. They will also look into the internal organizational processes that we have set in place with regard to what members of the ANC coming from those conferences have actually raised. But the conflict mechanism that is there, PDRC, NDRC, and DRCA have kicked in, have done their job, conferences have taken place. And
all right, so let's come out of that briefing. That was ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula addressing the media on a number of issues, essentially political related issues ahead of the National General Council of the ANC, which is happening later this month. On just that issue on the national dialogue, in response to the SABC question, he says that the ANC has never understood the withdrawal of the foundations from the National Convention as a standoff between President Cyril Ramaphosa and former President Thabo Mbeki. He says, in fact, former President Mbeki is among the architects of the national dialogue, and that the issues that the foundations had raised are currently being addressed, and the ANC is very confident that those will be ironed out and resolved.